Okay, so we're reattempting the live stream, short gap in the clouds hopefully, and as before we're looking at the nearly full moon, and you're looking at the video camera view of the moon, and my arrow is pointing at a tiny white spot which is the crater Aristarchus, and over here we have the high power view of Aristarchus, and although it's very close to the dark part of the moon that's still in the shadow of the sun, and almost all of the moon is fully illuminated, but this area is still a little sliver is in darkness, and close to that border between dark and light, the lunar terminator, we can see this spectacular bright spot which is the crater Aristarchus, and it is actually what has one of the highest brightnesses of any object on the surface of the moon. It reflects more of the incident sunlight than any other structure on the surface of the moon. I don't know why, because it seems like just a regular crater, but it has an unusually high albedo, which means it really reflects the sunlight very well. And you can just about make out the steep walls around the rim and the central mountain of this crater. I can even try to zoom in a tad more and move this up a tad, and maybe over to the left a tad. Okay, but there's quite a lot of turbulent air tonight. The seeing is just average 70, and so it's difficult to make out any of the details, although you can see a neighbouring bright crater which is probably Herodotus, and you can sort of vaguely make out the steep walls of the crater and the central mountain. Okay, and I can show you both views simultaneously, I hope. It will take me a moment to set that up here. So now on the left you're seeing the low power view of the moon, or part of the moon, and this is the ocean of Procellaris. Okay, yesterday we were looking down here at the Sea of Rains, and we were looking at this crater here, which I think is Aristarchus. I think that was Copernicus, and here we have the Bay of Rainbows, Sinus Iridum. But today the Terminator has moved further up, and there's very little of it, and because the moon is nearly full, but we can clearly see this crater Aristarchus there, and I'm now going to try and show you some from the Wikipedia article on Aristarchus, a couple of other views of the crater taken from the Apollo 15 mission. So let me just make sure that that is set up here. Okay, I think that should be good. And now let's see whether we can bring up the display here. Okay, done. And we'll switch over to the view here. And just in time, because the cloud is coming over. So on the left you have my current view of Aristarchus through the main telescope. I just need to move it up a little bit because it is drifting. There we go, I went one notch too far. So on the left there you have the telescope view live of Aristarchus, and on the right you have a detailed photograph taken from the Apollo 15 orbiter as it passed over Aristarchus, and you can see very clearly the walls of the crater and the depth of the crater. This crater is even deeper than the Grand Canyon, it turns out, but it has this unusually high reflectance on the part that's illuminated by the sun. And over here you can see crater Herodotus here. Now there's another interesting picture here, which again is from the same Apollo 15 mission, showing the walls of the crater and the central mountain here. And I think there's one other picture here which is looking directly down. This is from the lunar orbiter image, and you can again see the central crater and these very steep walls that then gradually slope down into the crater Aristarchus. And the article here claims that it is the brightest of the large formations on the lunar surface, with an albedo nearly double that of most lunar features, and it's bright enough to be visible to the naked eye. So here it is. Possibly you can see it tonight if you go out, if you've got very good eyesight. I would not be able to see that, but we're looking at crater Aristarchus, an unusual crater because of its high reflectance. It's a small but very deep crater. Well, when I say it's small, it's actually it has a diameter of 25 miles. Good. Well, at least the cloud held off enough for us to have a quick look here before we take our leave of the moon. Let's remind ourselves that of some of the other features, in particular this lunar ocean, as it's called, which is running up here like this, and that is the Oceanus Procellarum. Okay. Then down here we have the Sea of Rains, and here we have the Bay of Rainbows in here. This is the Ray of Rainbows here. And then we have this crater here, which we were looking at yesterday, which is Plato. Plato, quite a large crater compared to Aristarchus. But viewing conditions are not great. What I'm going to do now is to recenter the whole moon over to here, and let me just do that correctly. There we go. And now recenter so that we can look clearly at the whole moon in the low power view. No, I did that wrong. I want to go up rather than down, like that. And then we want to go to the right. And if we will now to switch over to the main telescope view, you can see that it's extremely bright because it's a full moon. But I'm just going to show you, I think, the low power view of the entire moon. There we go. And I'm going to recenter it just a little bit more. That means moving it up. There we go. And we can zoom in on the moon. Look at some of the dark patches, which are the lunar seas, and then move out. And if we zoom in like this, I can point out a couple more of the features of the moon. And what we have here is, let me get this right now, and down here, oops, sorry about that, why has it done that? Can be so, okay, now get my, so here we have the Sea of Crises, and next to it we have the Sea of Tranquility. Sorry. Sea of Tranquility here. Okay. Yep. And then over here we have the Sea of Serenity. Sea of Serenity, Sea of Tranquility, Sea of Crises, and here the Sea of Fecundity. And finally, this smaller sea in here is the Sea of Nectar. Okay, Nectar, Fecundity, Crises, Tranquility, Serenity. Then up here, Sea of Rains, much larger, with the Bay of Rainbows, Plato crater here, and finally returning right up here to Oceanus Procellarum, we can see this bright spot, which is